First of all, welcome everyone and all the speakers and the attendees to this webinar. Uh, at the onset, I would like to tell everyone that we are celebrating the National Nutrition Week from 1st to 7th of September, and this is a part of what we are doing in that. And this is also the Poshan Mah celebrated by the government of India for the last 3 years. This is the third year we are celebrating Poshan Mah, which is a month dedicated to nutrition and the Poshan Abhiyan campaign, which is a flagship program for nutrition for the government of India. So the this times are unprecedented. The places where we are, the situation we all are in are unprecedented. And like every other challenge which we have today, uh, whether it be it in life and livelihoods, nutrition is also facing a large challenge today. If we see the children, who are enrolled in government schools across India, they have not had access to their midday meals for over 6 months. Midday meals for many families across India are one of the best sources of nutrition for the children. So, and it's not only children who are there, about adults, the lowering of incomes, the migration which has happened due to this pandemic has also kind of leapfrogged the issues of nutrition. If we see if you see the rising inflation, if you see the cost of living, and if you see the access to resources which families have, they've actually become much more limited, leading to cut down on food quality and portion sizes. So with that brief, I would also like to say that uh, that's not there is light at the end of this tunnel. If we see that if we see how what the impact on nutrition platform, it is the premier platform across India, which is involving the private sector in addressing nutritional challenges across India. We are a very key partner to the Poshan Abhiyan of the government of India, and we focus on the Jan Andolan of the private sector. So good nutrition is good business also. I mean, we are not just talking about COVID and pre-COVID and post-COVID, but also in any general day, as per the Copenhagen consensus, for every $1 which is spent, invested in nutrition, there's a return of $16 due to increased employee retention, dip in absenteeism, and increased productivity of employees. So that was one of the major facets which the impact on nutrition secretariat forced on. So the platform with this platform is pretty new. It's 18 months old now. We were set up in March 2018, where we launched this on 18th of March 2018 during the Poshan Pakwada, which happens as a part of the Poshan Abhiyan. It's a brand agnostic, non-financial commitment-based platform, which it was incubated by UNICEF and has a strong list of pledged partners and initiative partners who take us along in this. So with that very brief, and I would not like to take much more time. I would actually like to ask our leaders who have joined us today, to kind of they have much more qualitative contributions which they can make. And with that, I would like to give it back to Yamini. Yeah, back over to you, Yamini. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Subrajyoti, for wonderfully setting the context for us and helping our audience understand the work that Impact for Nutrition is spearheading. We would like to now move on to our first keynote address of the day. And for that, I would like to introduce a very prominent voice from the nutrition sector, Dr. Rajan Shankar, Senior Advisor at Tata Trusts. A physician by trade, Dr. Shankar specialized in internal medicine and began his professional career in the Army, where he served for over 24 years. Once retiring from the Army, he began working in the realm of public health nutrition with a focus on equitable scale-up of proven high-impact nutrition interventions. Over the last 5 years, Dr. Shankar has been with Tata Trusts and founded the India Nutrition Initiative. He still continues to work with them as a senior advisor. Dr. Shankar, it's an absolute pleasure to have you among us today.
Thank you, Yamini. And thank you, Subrajyoti, for setting the context. My sincere apologies. There seemed to be some issue with the video, and please bear with me. At the outset, I would like to congratulate Impact for Nutrition for organizing this webinar. I'd also like to convey my sincere gratitude on my behalf and on behalf of Tata Trust and India Nutrition Initiative for inviting me. This webinar, as Subrajyoti rightly said, is timely for many reasons, and it focuses on addressing India's nutritional challenges and the role and obligations of private sector in this important nation building agenda. First, we should answer this question as to why investing in nutrition is important, or why we should invest in improving nutrition. Simply put, it is a moral imperative. To improve health and nutrition is a constitutive part of any development process. Nutrition is one of the foundational building blocks, and every child has a right to optimum nutrition so that he or she can develop to his or her true genetic potential. Nutrition, therefore, is key to unlocking every child's true potential. Well-nourished children are better equipped to fend off diseases. They do better in schools, and they grow up to become more productive members of society. Undernutrition is the single most important cause of child death. Nearly half of all child deaths is attributed to the underlying undernutrition. The traditional rationale for investing in nutrition has always focused on its intrinsic value of doing good. It's always good to feed people, and it's very good to feed hungry. But there is a much stronger argument for investing in nutrition. That is, investing in nutrition is good economics. The impact extends well beyond the consideration of only health. Labor productivity, the ability of those affected to learn and function as a part of society, and the ability of the whole society to satisfy their economic needs can all be adversely affected. Nutrition, health are fundamental drivers of economic growth. So what is the problem in India? Why is it such a big challenge? You know, as a country, we speak the language of massive growth and progress. India is the third largest economy by purchase power parity in the world. We are one of the few countries with a successful space program. Indian IT prowess is globally celebrated. India is becoming a big R&D and innovation hub. India has the largest pool of technically qualified population in the world. And I believe a huge proportion of scientists in NASA are of Indian origin. Malnutrition, however, continues to haunt the country, and child undernutrition remains one of the most intractable public health challenges in the country. High proportion of the malnutrition in women and children, and we have a huge population base. These two together make India the country with the dubious distinction of having the largest number of stunted, wasted, and underweight children in the world. Unfortunately, for all the progress that we have made and the unprecedented economic growth we have had nearly for 2 decades, leave out what's happening now, the country hasn't touched the millions of Indian citizens at the bottom of economic pyramid, particularly the 40 million children under the age of 5 who are stunted because they aren't getting enough of the right nutrition at the right time. This means there are quite simply 2 Indias, with the second India in dire straits. This India is poor, insecure, and unhealthy. The clearest single indicator of that deprived condition is hunger and malnutrition. The clearest indicator of improved well-being for the second India would be improvement in nutritional status. Addressing hunger and malnutrition in second India will require Not only diligent effort by individuals such as those who have joined today, but also a new consciousness in the country as a whole, a new consciousness, a new sense of responsibility among those living in the first India. We must do what we can, and we must do it as fast as we can. Now, COVID-19, and more precisely, the measures the countries around the world have adopted to tackle the SARS-CoV-2 virus have changed the world in many ways. It has already caused immeasurable harm. It has destroyed lives. It is undermining nutrition across the world, more so in developing countries. The worst consequences are borne by young children. Since the launch of Poshan Abhiyan, the National Nutrition Mission, in March 2018, nutrition had become center stage in India. There is tremendous momentum, and for some time, it looked that at last the country would significantly reduce malnutrition burden at a far more rapid rate than what we had been doing in the past. Unfortunately, the COVID pandemic has put everything in disarray. Social protection systems are struggling to cope under changed conditions. Children are at risk of not receiving the care they need to survive and thrive. Like what Subrajyoti referred to, India's school feeding program through midday meal and the supplementary nutrition program of ICDS have been the most important programs for food and to a big extent, nutrition security for the vulnerable children. Unfortunately, more than the pandemic, the measures adopted to tackle the pandemic have disrupted everything. Many of these programs have virtually stopped. We need to act now. We need to act to prevent the looming large crisis resulting in a generation of children, the COVID generation, who for lack of proper nutrition cannot grow to their true potential. This is preventable. So that is in this connection, what can businesses do? I would say many things. The problem as it is, not only by what the pandemic has put in disarray, as it is, it was such a major challenge. It is a challenge that is too much for government or foundations or civil society, or for that matter, any one sector to address on their own. Responsible businesses have an obligation to add their know-how, resources, and skills to the right fight against malnutrition in all its forms. I'm sure the panel will discuss them in detail, as well as highlight some of the successful models that have been created. Suffice it to say, to repeat what Subrajyoti said in his initial context setting, that good nutrition is good business. Private sector, of course, brings in new resources. I would say not just money, but money, new skill sets, and new energy, and a new way of doing business. It is not only contributing money to nutrition that is important, but it is getting involved in problem solving that is really important. That's precisely why platforms like Impact for Nutrition have been set up. Improving nutrition will improve workplace productivity. It'll reduce absenteeism. Healthier and productive consumers are good for business. They will purchase more goods and services. We are focusing on making a difference through own businesses, as well as a claimed triple bottom line approach for accounting for social, financial, and environmental performance. The concept of shared value, more and more companies are now building and rebuilding business models around social good, which sets them apart from the competition and augments their success. With the help of NGOs, governments, and other stakeholders, business has the power to scale things and to create real change on monumental social problems. Challenges are many. First and foremost is to align the entire workforce to the vision. Often the top management in business houses are interested, but the workforce is more worried about their sales targets and treat social endeavors as distraction. In the business world of quarterly results, investment in human capital is a long shot and difficult to demonstrate benefits in short term. There's also a huge issue of mistrust by the different sectors. Civil society is suspicious of motives of private sector, and private sector considers civil society inefficient. There is huge trust deficit. Different sectors, the private sector, civil society, and governments have to come together and learn to work together. I would urge all participants and those who are listening that we must join platforms such as Impact for Nutrition, and there are several other such useful platforms that would help augment the efforts of government and other civil society partners in improving nutrition of women and children. For example, Jan Andolan and support during Poshan Ma are vital. Rather than individual businesses charting their own course on fighting malnutrition, it'll be enormously beneficial if individual companies join platforms such as Impact for Nutrition to significantly enlarge the scope, scale of their effort, and improve chances of making a difference for their own workforce, for their business, and contributing to the nation building. I do not want to give a laundry list of what they can do. I'm sure we'll hear more about them in the panel, as well as some of the wonderful successes in a short period of time that platforms like Impact for Nutrition have been able to demonstrate. I would once again thank the organizers for this privilege and look forward to learning from Sri Rakesh Vyasji and from the panel. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Shankar, for that absolutely insightful sentiment. You're absolutely right. Nutrition is not just a priority today, this week, or this month, but has to be a priority 365 days a year by all 1.4 billion of us. And the private sector does bring a lot to the table and needs to work together to augment government efforts. So thank you, sir, for that insightful talk. We will now move on to invite another key voice from the nutrition sector, this time from the public sector. I would now like to invite Mr. Rakesh Vyas, Mission Director for the Poshan Abhiyan from the Women and Child Development Department for the Government of Gujarat. Mr. Vyas has over 25 plus years of experience working in women and child development. Under his leadership, the Government of Gujarat has been successful in implementing many nutrition schemes that have garnered private sector engagement. Mr. Vyas, an absolute pleasure to have you among us today.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. मैं आज का ये इम्पैक्ट फॉर न्यूट्रिशन ने जो वेबिनार आयोजित किया है उसके लिए सबसे पहले उनका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं। और आज जो हम बात करेंगे उसमें 2-3 चीजों पे मुझे फोकस करके बात करनी है। सबसे पहले तो पोषण अभियान की थोड़ी हम बात करेंगे। भारत सरकार ने एक पोषण अभियान जो शुरू किया वो बेसिकली 3 साल के टारगेट से शुरू किया था, जिसके लिए भारत सरकार ने 9,000 करोड़ रुपीस का बजट एलोकेशन किया है। थोड़ा डेटा मैं आपसे शेयर करूं तो अभी जो भारत सरकार का गोल था उसमें एवरी ईयर 2% रिडक्शन करना है स्टंटिंग में, अंडर न्यूट्रिशन में, एनीमिया एमोंग यंग चिल्ड्रन एंड एनीमिया एमोंग वुमेन एंड एडोलसेंट गर्ल। तो हर साल 2% का कमी करके 3 साल के मिशन में 6% इसको कम करने के लिए ये पूरा मिशन आयोजित किया गया है। उसमें अगर फिगर आप देखिए तो NFHS 4 का जो डेटा है 2015-16 का, उसमें इंडिया का जो स्टेटस है वो स्टंटिंग में 38.4 है और गुजरात का स्टेटस 38.5 है। अंडर न्यूट्रिशन का जो स्टेटस है वो इंडिया का 35.7% है और गुजरात का 39.3% है। उसी तरह से एनीमिया में अगर देखें तो इंडिया का 58.4% है और गुजरात का 62.6% चिल्ड्रंस में है, और वुमन और एडोलेसेंट गर्ल में इंडिया का 53.1% एंड गुजरात का 54.9% है। उसके बाद और एक सर्वे आया CNN का, उसमें स्टंटिंग का डेटा है, उसमें थोड़ा सा इंप्रूवमेंट हुआ। इंडिया का 34.7 और गुजरात का 39.1। वेस्टिंग का जो था वो 17% इंडिया और गुजरात में दोनों में है, और अंडरवेट का जो फिगर है वो 33.4 इंडिया का और 34.2 अंडरवेट का फिगर गुजरात का है। अब अगर इस तरह से हम ब्रॉडली देखें तो जो परसेंटेज अगर हम देखते हैं तो काफी हाई है, इंडिया में भी काफी हाई है, और गुजरात का भी देखें तो उस हिसाब से हमारा न्यूट्रिशन में गुजरात में भी काफी हमको मेहनत करने की जरूरत है, ऐसी कंडीशन दिखा रही है। इसी पर्पज से भारत सरकार ने पूरा पोषण अभियान लॉन्च किया था। पोषण अभियान में पूरा IT बेस्ड एक सॉफ्टवेयर भारत सरकार ने डेवलप किया है, और उस सॉफ्टवेयर में पूरे इंडिया की सारी आंगनवाड़ी को कवर करके सारी आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर को एक मोबाइल फोन हमने दिया हुआ है। उस मोबाइल फोन में वो सॉफ्टवेयर इंस्टॉल करके सारी आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर को उसकी अच्छी तरह से ट्रेनिंग दी गई है, और फिर उसके बाद वो पूरा डेटा हर एक बच्चे का, हर एक एडोलेसेंट गर्ल का, प्रेग्नेंट लेडी का और लैक्टेटिंग मदर का सारा डेटा, उसके न्यूट्रिशन रिलेटेड, उसके हेल्थ रिलेटेड सारा डेटा हम डेली बेसिस पर उनसे लेते हैं, और उनका एनालिसिस करके पूरा हम उनको क्लोजली मॉनिटर करते हैं। अभी जो सारी स्कीम ये चल रही थी, बेसिकली हमारा जो पार्ट है वो ICDS में हम ज्यादा फोकस बच्चों पे 0 to 6 ईयर के बच्चों पे कर रहे हैं। तो ICDS का जो मेन फोकस है 0 to 6 का, उसमें एक्चुअल ग्राउंड लेवल पे हमारे पास उनको मॉनिटर करने का कोई IT बेस्ड सिस्टम अभी तक नहीं थी। हमारा जो सिस्टम था वो ट्रेडिशनल था, जिसमें हायरार्की जो गवर्नमेंट की होती है, आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर के ऊपर सुपरवाइजर, सुपरवाइजर के ऊपर हमारी तालुका ब्लॉक लेवल की CDPOs होती है, उसके ऊपर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में क्लास 1 ऑफिसर होते हैं, प्रोग्राम ऑफिसर। तो वो लोग जितना भी फील्ड विजिट करके या अपने हिसाब से जितना मॉनिटर कर पाते थे, उतना ही मॉनिटरिंग उनसे पॉसिबल होता था। मगर ये पोषण अभियान जो भारत सरकार ने लागू किया, उसकी वजह से आज हम हर एक आंगनवाड़ी की एक एक चीज क्लोजली देख सकते हैं। आंगनवाड़ी कितने बजे ओपन होती है, आंगनवाड़ी में कितने बच्चे आए हैं, कितने बच्चों को खाना दिया जा रहा है, उन सारे उसके फोटोग्राफ से लेके सारी चीजें हम ऑनलाइन हमारे पास रियल टाइम देख सकते हैं। तो इस हिसाब से हमारा ये पूरा IT बेस्ड मिशन है पोषण अभियान का। और पोषण अभियान में 2-3 चीजों पे और बहुत अच्छा फोकस है। एक जो है वो कम्युनिटी बेस्ड इवेंट, क्योंकि ये पूरा जो न्यूट्रिशन का मामला है वो गवर्नमेंट सिर्फ एक तरह से अपनी तरफ से कितना भी मेहनत कर ले, काम कर ले, मगर जब तक इसमें जन भागीदारी या प्राइवेट सेक्टर की पार्टिसिपेशन नहीं होगी तब तक इसमें रिजल्ट लाना बहुत ही मुश्किल है। सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट की ओर से मेहनत करने से, बहुत साल से ये प्रोग्राम चल रहा है, फिर भी हमको जितना रिजल्ट मिलना चाहिए उतना मिल नहीं पा रहा है। तो ये पूरा जो पोषण अभियान है उसमें सबसे बड़ा जो पार्ट था वो जन भागीदारी का, जन आंदोलन का है। उसके लिए हम कम्युनिटी बेस्ड इवेंट ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं। हर आंगनवाड़ी में हर मंथ में हमारे 4 कम्युनिटी बेस्ड इवेंट होते हैं। पहला कम्युनिटी बेस्ड इवेंट हम फर्स्ट वीक में सुपोषण संवाद का करते हैं। दूसरा जो इवेंट है उसमें बाल तुला, मतलब सारे बच्चों का हम वेइंग करते हैं दूसरे वीक में। तीसरे वीक में अन्नप्राशन, अन्नप्राशन मतलब जो बच्चा 6 महीने का हो गया और जिसको ऊपरी आहार देने की शुरुआत करनी है, उन बच्चों को आंगनवाड़ी में बुला के, उनकी मदर, उनके पेरेंट्स सबको बुला के वहां उनका काउंसलिंग करके उनको कैसे ऊपरी आहार देना है, क्या देना है, कितने वक्त देना है, कितनी क्वांटिटी में देना है, वो सारी चीजें उनको अच्छी तरह से समझाते हैं। तो ये हम 3rd वीक में करते हैं। और लास्ट वीक में हम जो कम्युनिटी बेस्ड इवेंट करते हैं उसमें बेसिकली हम एडोलेसेंट गर्ल पे फोकस करते हैं, क्योंकि हमारा सबसे बड़ा जो ये साइकिल शुरू होता है माल न्यूट्रिशन का, उसकी शुरुआत अगर आप देखें तो एडोलेसेंट गर्ल से होती है। बहुत सारी एडोलेसेंट गर्ल्स है वो बहुत वीक है, एनीमिक है, उसकी वजह से जब उनकी कम उम्र में शादी होती है तो वो बहुत छोटी एज में माँ बनने के लिए उसको हम भेज देते हैं, तो उसकी वजह से ये होता है कि वो छोटी उम्र में वो एनीमिक है ऑलरेडी और उसकी उम्र भी छोटी है, तो जब वो प्रेग्नेंट होती है तो नेचुरली उसका जो बच्चा आएगा उसको माल न्यूट्रिशन का खतरा सबसे ज्यादा रहता है। तो ये पूरी साइकिल है, अगर माल न्यूट्रिशन को खत्म करना है तो एडोलेसेंट गर्ल्स से लेके जब वो प्रेग्नेंट होती है तो प्रेग्नेंट लेडी, उसके बाद बच्चे का बर्थ होता है वो क्लोजली मॉनिटर करना पड़ता है, क्योंकि कई बार बहुत लो वेट बच्चे जन्म लेते हैं और वो सबसे बड़ा रिस्क है। और उसके बाद जो है वो लैक्टेटिंग मदर जब होती है 6 महीने तक उसको सिर्फ माँ का दूध देना है बच्चे को, तो ये पीरियड में हम उनको बहुत क्लोजली मॉनिटर, इसके लिए हम 1000 डे का एक कंसेप्ट भी है हमारा। ये जो अभी पोषण माह है उसके 5 सूत्र है, उसमें से एक सूत्र 1000 डेज का है, जिसमें प्रेगनेंसी के पीरियड से लेके बच्चा 2 साल का हो जाए तब तक उसका न्यूट्रिशन का अगर हम बहुत अच्छी तरह से ध्यान रखें तो वो बच्चा आगे जाके माल न्यूट्रिशन होने के चांसेस बहुत ही कम हो जाते हैं। तो ये 1000 डेज हमारे लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो इस तरह से अभी ये हमारा पूरा फोकस जो है वो आईटी बेस्ड मॉनिटरिंग का, कम्युनिटी बेस्ड इवेंट का, और उसके साथ में इनका जो इंक्रीमेंटल लर्निंग प्रोग्राम के थ्रू आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर का जो नॉलेज बेस है वो इम्प्रूव करने का एक हमारा अलग से प्रोग्राम चलता है। मगर ये सारी चीजों में आज जो मेन हमारा वेबिनार है उसमें हमारे साथ बहुत सारे जो कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के पार्टनर्स जुड़े हुए हैं, तो उन सबसे मैं अपील करना चाहता हूं कि गवर्नमेंट अपनी तरफ से मेहनत करे, मगर जब तक आप लोग जुड़ेंगे नहीं, जब तक पब्लिक इसके साथ जुड़ेगी नहीं, जन आंदोलन का इसका बड़ा स्वरूप जब तक नहीं होगा, तब तक ये ऐसा इश्यू है कि हम उसको ओवरनाइट कभी रिमूव नहीं कर पाएंगे। माल न्यूट्रिशन ओवरनाइट कभी रिमूव नहीं होगा। इसके लिए बहुत ही स्ट्रेटेजिकली, बहुत अच्छी प्लानिंग के साथ और बहुत मेहनत के साथ हम सबको आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा। हमारे साथ काफी अभी जो हमारी यहाँ पर गुजरात की आईसीडीएस टीम है, तो हमारे साथ काफी बड़े कॉर्पोरेट से लेके काफी लोग जुड़ रहे हैं। सबसे अगर मैं इंपॉर्टेंट बात करूं तो हमारे साथ अभी अदानी फाउंडेशन जुड़ा हुआ है। अदानी फाउंडेशन हमारा एक जो इंपॉर्टेंट डिस्ट्रिक्ट है जहां माल न्यूट्रिशन के लिए हमको बहुत काम करने की जरूरत है, वो नर्मदा डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हमारे पार्टनर है। नर्मदा में उन्होंने एक पूरा ऐसा अच्छा कंसेप्ट दिया है कि उन्होंने पोषण संगिनी नाम की फीमेल काउंसिलर रखी। उसमें लोकल गर्ल्स जो थी कम्युनिटी की, वो लोकल गर्ल्स को उन्होंने एंगेज किया है और उन गर्ल्स को अच्छी तरह से ट्रेन करके गवर्नमेंट का जो भी बेनिफिट मिलता है उनको आईसीडीएस की ओर से जो भी दिया जा रहा है, प्लस उनकी डोर टू डोर विजिट करके उनके पेरेंट्स का काउंसलिंग करना, बच्चों को एनआरसी में भेजना हो तो उसके लिए तैयार करना, और उनका वेइंग से लेके सारी चीजों में क्लोजली मॉनिटरिंग करना, ये पोषण संगिनी के थ्रू बहुत अच्छी तरह से नर्मदा में अदानी हमारे साथ कर रहे हैं, अदानी फाउंडेशन बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं। उसी तरह देवभूमि द्वारका में नायरा ग्रुप भी हमसे जुड़ा हुआ है, उनके साथ भी हमारा एमओयू हुआ है। तो मैं अपील करता हूं कि बहुत सारे बड़े कॉर्पोरेट और बहुत सारे कंपनीज का अपना सीएसआर फंड भी बहुत है, और बेसिकली सोशल सेक्टर में हमको उनकी बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है। अगर आप एजुकेशन में, हेल्थ में, न्यूट्रिशन में, उसमें अगर आप इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तो पूरा देश जो है उनको बहुत लॉन्ग टर्म में बहुत बड़ा फायदा हो सकता है इसकी वजह से। इसीलिए काफी ग्रुप्स हैं हमारे साथ जुड़ते हैं, बहुत अच्छा काम भी करते हैं। यहाँ पर भी गांधीनगर में भी एक हेल्दी फाउंडेशन हमारे साथ जुड़ा था, उसने एक छोटा सा ब्लॉक लिया और जितनी भी एनीमिक मदर थी, प्रेग्नेंट लेडी, लैक्टेटिंग मदर, उन सब पे फोकस करके विद इन 3 to 4 मंथ्स के पीरियड में उन्होंने 7-8 जिनका हीमोग्लोबिन लेवल था उनका 12, 13, 14 तक का हीमोग्लोबिन लेवल इंप्रूव करके दिखाया। उनका बहुत फोकस और बहुत छोटा सा सेगमेंट था, मगर उसमें बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट मिला, और इतना अच्छा रिजल्ट था कि गांव के लोग, सरपंच और बाकी सभी लोग उनको छोड़ना नहीं चाहते थे। उन्होंने बार बार रिक्वेस्ट किया कि इनको हमारे यहाँ कंटिन्यू करिए। मगर कोई भी सिस्टम है वो स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए उसको सेल्फ सफिशिएंट बनाना बहुत जरूरी है। एक बार आप उनको सपोर्ट करके फिर उनको सेल्फ सफिशिएंट बनाने की और अगर हम नहीं ले जाते हैं तो फिर वो सिस्टम है वो लॉन्ग रन में हमको रिजल्ट इतना अच्छा नहीं दे पाता है। तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर जो है वो इसमें बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले कर सकते हैं। सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज तो यह है कि आपका खुद का एम्प्लॉय बेस बहुत ही बड़ा होता है। बहुत सारी कंपनी में बहुत सारा लेबर फोर्स होता है, बहुत सारे एम्प्लॉइज है। अगर कंपनी अपने एम्प्लॉय और अपने लेबर पे भी फोकस करके उनके लिए अगर अच्छा सा न्यूट्रिशन प्रोग्राम डिजाइन करके उनपे अगर काम करे तो उनका उतने एरिया में भी बहुत अच्छा इंप्रूवमेंट ला सकते हैं। क्योंकि हमारे सबसे बड़े जो प्रॉब्लम्स आती है मोस्टली जो माइग्रेंट लेबर्स है, बाहर से जो लेबर आते हैं, जो हमारे यहाँ कई बार रजिस्टर भी नहीं होते हमारी सर्विसेज के लिए, क्योंकि उनका नेटिव डिस्ट्रिक्ट कहीं और होता है, वहीं उनके सारे डॉक्यूमेंट, सारा रजिस्ट्रेशन या उनका सब कुछ वहां होता है। और वो कोई काम के लिए अगर दूसरी किसी जगह जाता है तो वहां वो इतना इजीली गवर्नमेंट सर्विसेज अवेल करने के लिए अपने आप को रजिस्टर नहीं करवाते हैं। तो ऐसे बहुत सारे फैमिलीज है, बहुत सारी प्रेग्नेंट लेडी होगी, बच्चे होते हैं छोटे छोटे, उन लोगों तक हमारी रीच कई बार नहीं पहुंचती है। तो वो अगर कंपनी उसमें इनिशिएटिव लेगी तो वो बहुत इजीली वो आइडेंटिफाई करके कर सकते हैं। मैं बहुत सिंपल अगर आपको एक एग्जांपल दूं तो हमारे यहाँ अभी हमारे सीएम साहब ने एक बहुत ही अच्छा कंसेप्ट देके गुजरात पोषण अभियान करके एक बहुत बड़ा कैंपेन लॉन्च किया। शायद आप में से किसी को पता भी हो, जनवरी में एंड में ये कोरोना स्टार्ट हुआ उससे पहले हमने ये बहुत बड़ा इवेंट किया था। उसमें हमारे सारे मिनिस्टर, सारे सीनियर सेक्रेटरीज, सारे पदाधिकारी, मतलब जो बोर्ड निगम चेयरमैन वो सब होते हैं, उन सबको हमने तालुका ब्लॉक लेवल तक भेजा और ब्लॉक लेवल पे उन लोगों की अध्यक्षता में ये पूरा एक कैंपेन लॉन्च करवाया। और उसमें सबसे बड़ा फोकस ये रखा कि गुजरात में अभी सीवियरली मालनरिश्ड चिल्ड्रन जो है वो अप्रोक्सीमेट 1 लाख के आसपास है। तो वो सारे 1 लाख बच्चों के लिए हमने एक पालक वाली डिसाइड करवाई कि भाई एक उनको कोई एडॉप्ट करेगा और वो एडॉप्शन सिर्फ उसका न्यूट्रिशनल स्टेटस और वो माल न्यूट्रिशन में बाहर आ जाए वो चेक करने के लिए। तो हमने पूरा सीएम साहब का ये पूरा अपना खुद का आइडिया था कि पालक वाली बनाइए, और पालक वाली है वो एक बच्चा एडॉप्ट करेगा, उसको बहुत ज्यादा हम फोर्स भी नहीं कर रहे, उनको बहुत ज्यादा वर्क भी नहीं दे रहे। और वो पालक वाली उसी गांव का, उसी के आसपास का होगा, जिसमें सरपंच भी हो सकता है, जिसमें पंचायत का सदस्य भी हो सकता है, जिसमें गांव का कोई लीडर भी हो सकता है, कम्युनिटी में जो इन्फ्लुएंसर है ऐसा कोई लीडर हो सकता है, टीचर है। उस तरीके से उसी गांव का कोई आदमी या उसी एरिया का कोई अच्छा जो है जिसको इस काम में इंटरेस्ट है वो एक बच्चा एडॉप्ट करे। और फिर वो उस बच्चे का मिनिमम 1 साल तक, हमारा जो प्रोग्राम है वो 2 साल का है, 1 साल तक मिनिमम उसको हर मंथ उसको ट्रैकिंग करना है, उसके घर की विजिट करनी है, उसके मदर फादर की काउंसलिंग करनी है, उनको सही समझ देनी है, उनको सारे बेनिफिट्स जो गवर्नमेंट की ओर से मिल रहे हैं वो दिलवाने हैं, उनका वेइंग अच्छी तरह से हो, बच्चे का इंप्रूवमेंट हो वो क्लोजली मॉनिटर करना है। तो ये सारी चीजें हम पालक वाली के थ्रू करवा रहे हैं। और ये अभी हमारे 2-3 महीने का ब्रेक इसमें इसी वक्त कोरोना की वजह से आ गया कि हमारी सारी आंगनवाड़ी क्लोज हो गई, हमारा अभी सर्विसेज है वो हम डोर टू डोर ही दे पा रहे हैं, हम कम्युनिटी गैदरिंग सारे हमारे बंद हो गए, कम्युनिटी इवेंट्स हमने बंद कर दिए। तो इस तरीके से जो हमारा है वो अभी हम फोकस करके डोर टू डोर सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं। ये पालक वाली का जो कंसेप्ट था वो उसका पर्पस ये था कि हर बच्चे को कोई क्लोजली मॉनिटर करे, हर बच्चे के साथ कोई इमोशनली जुड़े। और ये बहुत ही पुण्य का काम है, क्योंकि एक मालनरिश्ड चिल्ड्रन को अगर आप उसके मालनरिशमेंट में से बाहर लाते हैं, कुपोषण से बाहर लाके उसको अगर हेल्दी बच्चा बनाते हैं तो ये नेशन के लिए तो एक एसेट है ही, मगर उनको खुद को जो ये काम कर रहे हैं उनके लिए भी एक बहुत बड़ा सेटिस्फेक्शन का मौका है। तो मेरी ये अपील है कि जितने भी आज कॉर्पोरेट ग्रुप हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं, जितनी भी कंपनियां हैं, उन सबको मैं ये अपील करना चाहूंगा कि आप सब आगे आइए और न्यूट्रिशन के फील्ड में बहुत कुछ करने की जरूरत है। तो हम सब साथ में मिलके इसके लिए एक बहुत बड़ा जन आंदोलन जैसा एक क्रिएट करके अगर हर मालनरिश बच्चा या हर प्रेग्नेंट लेडी जो मालनरिश है उनके तक पहुंच के अगर हम एक अच्छे समाज का निर्माण करने में अच्छी भूमिका अगर दे पा रहे हैं तो हमको ये करना चाहिए। तो इसीलिए आज ये एक बहुत अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म हमको मिला था कि इसमें हम इतनी सही तरीके से हमारी बात रख सके और हमारे साथ धीरे धीरे काफी अच्छे ग्रुप जुड़ रहे हैं, काफी एनजीओस भी हमारे साथ काम कर रहे हैं। हमारे साथ यूनिसेफ काफी वक्त से जुड़ा हुआ है, न्यूट्रिशन इंटरनेशनल एक और एनजीओ है वो जुड़ा हुआ है, गवर्नमेंट का एक हेल्थ का इंस्टीट्यूट है आईआईपीएच भी हमारे साथ बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट में अच्छी तरह से काम कर रहा है। हेल्थ डिपार्टमेंट और WCD डिपार्टमेंट दोनों मिलके ये माल न्यूट्रिशन पे बहुत सारी चीजें हम साथ में मिलके कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि बच्चे को माल न्यूट्रिशन में से बाहर लाने के लिए बेसिकली 3 एस्पेक्ट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। एक जो एस्पेक्ट है वो उसका न्यूट्रिशन का, जिसका वेटेज अप्रोक्सीमेट 33% हम बोल सकते हैं कि उनको अगर अच्छा हेल्दी खाना पीना दिया जाए, अच्छी आदतें उसमें डेवलप की जाए, हैंड वॉशिंग की और सब, तो हम उसको उसमें से बाहर ला सकते हैं। दूसरा 33% का जो पार्ट है वो हेल्थ का है, उसमें इम्यूनाइजेशन से लेके उसका क्लोजली उसकी हेल्थ को मॉनिटर करना बहुत जरूरी है। और तीसरा जो 33% पार्ट है वो कम्युनिटी बिहेवियर का है। कम्युनिटी बिहेवियर भी इतना ही इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है और इसलिए जो कंपनी जहां पर भी लोकेटेड है वो अपने आसपास के विलेजेस है, अपने आसपास का एरिया है, उसमें अगर कोई अच्छा प्रोजेक्ट लेके अच्छी तरह से ये काम करेंगे तो ये बहुत बड़ा आंदोलन का स्वरूप लेके बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट इसमें हम दे पाएंगे। थैंक यू।
मिस्टर व्यास, थैंक यू सर। आपने काफी अहम बातों पर आज जोर डाला है और आप सही बात कह रहे हैं कि न्यूट्रिशन की समस्या इंडिया में इतनी बड़ी है कि इसका उपाय सिर्फ सहयोग है। गवर्नमेंट, प्राइवेट सेक्टर और हम जैसे जनों का ही सहयोग न्यूट्रिशन की प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व कर सकता है। सो थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू।
Now that we have heard from 2 esteemed experts in the area of nutrition, it is now time to get down to the specifics. It is now time to gauge exactly what kind of role private sector can play for making Poshan Abhiyan a Jan Andolan. So before we begin our panel, I would like to introduce our excellent panel members. To moderate this discussion, we have Ms. Neha Sehgal, Associate Director for IPE Global. Ms. Sehgal's 13 years of experience span across influencing policy in agriculture and nutrition, designing social accountability models, and leading multidisciplinary teams. An avid campaign strategist and a strategic management enthusiast, she has worked extensively in Orissa, co-designed Orissa Nutrition Action Plan with the government of Orissa, and has facilitated government working committees on nutrition. Ms. Sehgal, an absolute pleasure to have you moderate this panel for us.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Neeraj Lal, Head CSR at Arvind Limited. Mr. Lal is responsible for the consolidation, formulation, and management of the programs at Arvind, which are aimed at addressing the societal issues in urban India. The present engagement is in an ambitious educational program aimed to improve the quality of education for poor children in Ahmedabad and influence positively their future earning streams. Mr. Lal, thank you for joining us today. Our second panelist for the day is Ms. Rajashri Natarajan, CEO of Cognizant Foundation. Ms. Rajashri is an IT industry veteran with over 28 plus years of global experience. In her current role as CEO, she contributes towards evolving an overarching charter for the foundation, defining CSR strategy and goals, managing operations, communications, and relationship with a broad range of stakeholders. She's passionate about spending time with nonprofit organizations and social sector enterprises. Ms. Rajashri, an absolute pleasure to have you join us. Our final speaker for this panel is Dr. Ashish Jain, Head Health and Nutrition at JSW Foundation. Dr. Ashish has a rich experience of 20 plus years across industries. Prior to joining JSW, he worked with JSI India. In his previous roles, he has worked with Bionutrients, DFID-supported MPHSR projects, UNICEF Assam, and Care India. He's a postgraduate in Public Health and Nutrition from the Indian Institute of Public Health in New Delhi. Dr. Ashish, absolute honor to have you among us today. I would now like to hand over the session to Ms. Sehgal to moderate.
Thank you so much, Yamini. I'm I think I'm audible. A very good evening to everyone present. Thank you so much for joining in for this really important discussion. I'd like to thank Impact for Nutrition for providing this platform, especially at such an important time. I think the speakers earlier, Dr. Shankar, as well as Mr. Vyas, laid out the context really well, spoke about the importance of Poshan Abhiyan and spoke about the importance of collaboration. So I'm not going to speak any more about that. I think everyone's very eager to listen to our very esteemed panelists. So we'll get right into that. I'd like to possibly start with Mr. Neeraj first. I think, Mr. Neeraj, if you could actually tell us about the challenges that, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has posed to you, to your activities, especially on the ground with the communities that you work with, and what are some of the key learnings that you know, have emerged that you would like to share with us?
Thank you, Neha. Thank you, NGO Box and Impact for Nutrition for setting this up, a very important topic. COVID has become a kind of a starting point for us, where nutrition is turning out to be, and all of us are realizing now that nutrition is turning out to be the core of all other programs and projects that one is doing. So far, other programs had nutrition as a component. Now we are looking at other programs around nutrition in our area. The areas where we are working, initially, many of the urban focus, those areas were in containment zone, couldn't do much, but as it started opening, first was the relief operation within urban. We work in urban and rural both. So first was within urban, the relief, providing food, because all the livelihoods in the informal sectors are lost and building up is taking a huge amount of time. Second area that with relief is getting into re-establishing those livelihoods, both into the urban and the rural areas. And this is happening at 3 stages. One is providing sustenance till the person has got a job. Second, linking them with a similar skill into some kind of job or some kind of self-employment opportunities, which can fetch them sub-income to extend. And the third is happening, which is a little long-term: sustenance, training, and then placement. So this is working as a collective with 2-3 organizations. NGO Box has also set up Alaman platform. So this, but one challenge is ensuring that no one loses income and that income continues. On the nutrition front, when we went to the rural areas, initially there were no issues. When you have a very good connect with your community, this thing becomes easier to tackle. So our communities said that they don't need any help. And within urban, whether you need or you don't need, this was a learning for us, that within urban, whether you need or you don't need, you ask for services. In rural, we were asked, no, we don't need, you just provide small services to migrant laborers who are stuck in the villages because of lockdown. You just provide to these number of communities. Few very enthusiastic sarpanches started running community kitchens. Few were packing food grains and giving it to their area people who needed. It was, believe me, it was not for everybody. Community leaders themselves were identifying and giving it. We had set up a system with government of Gujarat, so that the food was delivered on the in each panchayat, and it was so understanding on one point that yes, within urban areas people ask, in rural areas people avoid you. No one wants to ask at least food. The challenge, another I am seeing, is huge on the educational front, because all schools so far are closed. It is close to 6 months now. And this would have created huge nutritional challenge for children who are going into Anganwadi, for children who are going into early schools, pre-primary and primary schools. I believe these two challenges of children and expectant mothers, these two will require a huge kind of data intervention to bring a very narrowly focused geography centric approach. And once this is done, and I'm very happy that Mr. Rakesh Vyas referred about the kind of data. If we can bring it very narrowly focused, which child, which women, in which geography, and who is taking care of that, if 3-4 organizations come together and we do that, I think we will be in a very, very good shape. I'm seeing this COVID as an opportunity to reach out to this. Third thing I will add just in a minute, that we have, and that was a huge learning. We have a small project for employing tribal girls from Dahod, Godhra, Narmada, and those kind of places, and put them into a residential factory. When the girls came, their weight, an 18, 19, 20-year-old girl, the weight was 35 kg, right? And their hemoglobin would be tremendously low. In normal conditions, they would not be kind of selected. We took the steps, selected them, trained them, and in about 4 months' time, they all were up to the mark. At least hemoglobin and other things had improved. Now this COVID, they all had to go back. They have come back now, and we can see, we are initiating again something where we can judge their hemoglobin and their present health status. Now this will again take 3-4 months. But we can do that because we have narrowly focused geography and a small group. This thing needs to be done at a large level. And if we do some data intervention here, where we can identify an individual, this would be great. So this is what I would kind of put in till the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neeraj. Thank you so much for bringing the attention to the disruption of services. We all know ever since this pandemic, nutrition services have been disrupted, and the direct impact of that is to our women, children, and the girls. And you also brought up the fact about hemoglobin amongst tribal girls. We know that now we have to talk about two chapters. One is pre-COVID and one is post. Women in India, women and girls in India have always been anemic, and one can only imagine what these levels of anemia would have been like, during this COVID time without access to the right food or the right supplements. So thank you, Mr. Neeraj. Now, moving from the challenge to looking forward, because this is what this platform is about. My next question is to Dr. Ashish, who is also an expert on nutrition and has worked in the field of health and nutrition with various organizations. So I'd like to ask you, Dr. Ashish, what should the focus, what should we as a nutrition community be focusing on going forward?
Thank you, Neha, and good evening to everyone, all the eminent panelists, eminent speaker, Dr. Ranjan, Mr. Vyas, everyone. And good evening to all the participants who are joining from various parts of the country. Thank you, Impact for Nutrition, and thank you, Neha. The way COVID has impacted the country, it has impacted us also, because we are also a very intensive company for lands and people. So during the first 3-4 months from April, May, June, July, we were all busy in managing the COVID in a relief mode, and now slowly into a rehabilitation mode. Now, standing here, now we have to see that what to do next. And to do this next, one most important thing is coming out is that we have to start the dialogue first. Dialogue in terms when we, knowing in our villages, we are working in about 1,000 villages in different parts of the country. The way Mr. Neeraj has explained, the way Mr. Vyas has explained, that people are coming, panchayat people are coming, and everybody is coming, but still there is a fear, and people are not coming out for other services, be it like ANC or be it like immunization or be it any other thing. It is happening because now that dialogue of normal course of program has been lost in this COVID time. Now, it will not be very ambitious to come out and say that nothing is there, let us come out, let us live with COVID. We have to go very carefully and methodically. So what we are doing here at this moment, we are working with state government and we are trying to work so that let us restate the dialogues. Let us restate few actions which are doable to bring few technical interventions, focusing on ANC and focusing on immunization. With these things, it will give an opportunity to contact with the community in a very planned way, be it small group, very small group, and how Anganwadi centers are going to open. Government is taking utmost care to open Anganwadi center in a very planned way. So we are working very closely with the government. The thing is that how it has impacted us. Now, to understand this impact, I will go back to our programs in different locations where we are working with the government and local partners and other people. In 3 to 4 years of journey of working on nutrition, we saw results. We saw good results. We saw that there was a sharp decline in the prevalence of wasting because we provided food, we provided counseling. The way Poshan Sangani is expressed in Gujarat things, we are having Yashodas in our programs. So all those things had been placed in those programs. So at the group level, at the higher level, at the consolidated level, we see a lot of good results. But we analyze each and every case, we find that there was a lot of faltering. There were a lot of cases which were normal but fall into undernutrition status. So the cohort is not same. The numbers may be same. The number may be good. Maybe let's say 10,000 children out of 10,000, if 60% were underweight or reduced to 50%. So the aggregate numbers are good, but individual tracking is guiding us and saying us that why individual tracking is very much important, because there is a lost opportunity. The cohort is changing. So this is very important because now Government of India with state government is placing this ICDS CAS, which Mr. Vyas was telling about. And we should be emphasizing on mother and child protection card, because the type of thing you express that when the child is in the village and moves out from any urban places or from urban places, come back to rural places, where is the tracking is happening? So somewhere we are going to emphasize that how ICDS CAS and our intervention can complement each other so that this MCP card can be made as a base tool for the tracking. Once your tracking system, once you know the movements, once you understand the migration, once you understand that who's going out and who's coming in, therefore your community level or at the block level or at the sector level, your plannings will be there. Because ICDS CAS, it is giving us an opportunity to capture the data, which is very important. But at the same time, it is throwing another challenge that if data is there, then how to utilize that data. Qualitative use of data is something which needs to be built upon, particularly at the district and below district level, the use of the data. So when we are gearing for a phase, which we do not know whether it will come in October or November or December, I do not know about that time period. But during this time period, we are going to start in a way that the stakeholders are engaged. They're looking into these essential services. They're establishing those tracking mechanisms. And then we are identifying those foods which can help, because availability is still in our locations. Availability of food is there. Yes, there is a problem. I'll not say that zero problem, but there are problems. But availability has to be ensured, which is there. Now the consumption is required, be it ICDS food, be it midday meal food, or be it additional food, or be it additional food from any other partners. So that consumption has to be ensured. So my take-home message from today and what I'm communicating to my team is that if we are going ahead, looking forward, we should start very meticulously, start the dialogue, look into those missing pieces which were missed during the regular program, and start building so that we make sure that the people are getting tracked. The people who had come back to rural will again go back to their own area where they have to have their livelihoods. So let us have some tracking mechanisms. Once we will have the tracking mechanism, then we can keep on evolving our own program. The program will take its own time to evolve. And there we will be requiring good partners or technically sound partners who are working for 10, 15 years, who can come out and tell us strategies of technical interventions, strategies for operational implementation, technology for convergence, and all those sort of stuff we will be requiring. So our know-how, our knowledge for technical interventions are there, that what are the proven technical interventions to be implemented, those are there. Operational know-how is there. Now we have to refine our implementation strategy. That is something which we are requiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. Thank you for bringing the focus to, from food and talking about antenatal care services, which are so critical for pregnant women. And also thank you for talking about taking the, taking ICDS-CAS and actually using this data, being able to track. You've raised some really very, very valid points, and thank you for that. With that, I'm going to ask my next question to Ms. Rajeshri. When we were talking earlier, Ms. Rajeshri, you had mentioned that as a foundation, you felt that working on nutrition is something that's a given. There is no way you can ignore it. No matter what you're working on, if you're looking at development, nutrition is something that can't be ignored. Can you talk to us a little bit about your own foundation's journey on this?
Sure, Neha. Thanks a lot for asking that question. As I was kind of sharing with you earlier, Cognizant Foundation has very sharpened focus areas. Like we work on 3 pillars like health, education, and livelihood. And health is our dominant thing. And then in that we were very sharply focusing on preventing avoidable blindness. And of course, there are data, the reason behind it. India has about 12 million individuals with blindness as against a total global of 39 million and so on. Close to about more than it's like a 1/3 to 1/4, and we thought that, and 75% of that was avoidable, and that was actually kind of striking a chord with us, and we wanted to focus on that, like with a very, very clear, sharp focus. So we were focusing on generally blindness, and then we were also focusing on childhood blindness and neonatal blindness, because the reason is that years of life for them with disability is much higher, right? And therefore we started focusing on areas like retinopathy of prematurity, like very babies who are like underweight born and kind of struggling for life, they're treated in these neonatal intensive care units or special neonatal care units. But what happens is like they're getting saved, but then the disability, if it's kind of the chances or probability of them going blind or disabled is also high, and that's kind of permanent and so on. So that's one area that we were working, and we realized most of these underweight babies, if you look at it, whichever way you look at it, was pointing back to actually women health, and particularly more girls, adolescent health, and so on. So the second focus area for us that we picked up in healthcare is women and children. Initially, there again, we were focusing on promoting more institutional births and providing infrastructural support for public health system as well as in not-for-profit health systems, where to strengthen these neonatal intensive care units as well as with the gynec wards and so on. But whichever way you see it, at the end, and we were also started expanding it for early disability screening. We were, as part of the DIC centers in government, we were actually trying to work. Whichever way you see it, finally the disability and everything was linking back to actually underweight babies and undernutrition. Either the mother and the girl child at an adolescent age having an undernutrition and this one. So that's when we started looking for, doing these kind of programs. We had some initial pilot. We did one in Maharashtra tribal belt, specifically for making them as self-sustainable, nutrition, more through local kitchen gardens and, teaching them on how to kind of have healthy food on their own, something that's cost effective and so on. Then the 2015 flood gave us an opportunity. Apart from the relief work, Chennai floods particularly, apart from the relief work, we also wanted to kind of pilot a very sustainable community development program. So as part of that, we started focusing on specifically women and child health, because the entire program was running around self-help groups, very women-centered self-help groups and so on. So that special stream helped us, and we started promoting kitchen garden and organic, and most of those communities are also farmers, and either it was peri-urban or as well as it's like rural areas. So a lot of consumption of small millets and more of advocacy on local and traditional recipes. And also, Dr. Ashish pointed a very valid point. It's like we always look at improvement in the the HbA1c and so on, but it's not the same cohort, right? If you take a community like Mr. Neeraj said, it's easy because you can follow the cohort. So we were focusing on these about a couple of blocks and 12 panchayats and so on. So we were following the cohort and seeing that what was the improvement in terms of the iron levels and so on. So if you define the boundary, it's a lot easier to follow the cohort. It was close to about, from 2015 we started, close to 3 to 5 years we've been doing this program. And it's not only about the kitchen garden and the other one, you also talked about Nutri-Mix powders, iron tablets, folic acids and all that. So it's a combination of everything, but more importantly, it's always not through supplements, it's also through the behavioral changes that the community need to have, right? The nutrition at the end of the day, the individuals also need to take ownership of the nutrition. And if the girl child and the mothers are taking the ownership, and that is ideal. All our Poshan Abhiyan would be successful only when individuals actually start taking charge of their own health. So that is what we were focusing on. And of course, COVID-19 and other things disturbed a lot. And since we were focusing on healthcare, we were continuing to focus on providing infrastructural support to the hospitals, protecting the healthcare workers. And we also realized that many of the services like retinopathy of prematurity screening, none of that could actually be called off. People are actually working on the field. Because if they lose that period, the baby may go permanently blind. So even in the red zones, babies were getting lifted and they were getting treated. So that was actually giving us a lot of satisfaction. But we also felt that we need to kind of do that much more. And in fact, one of our projects, which we wanted to start in Maharashtra, it was actually, we couldn't start. It was in Bhiwandi and Malegaon in Maharashtra. It was supposed to have started. And because of the COVID-19, the start date got impacted. And we were worried that if we start the project at that point of time, whether it's the right time even to start the project. So they came back and said, no, it's even more important because the antenatal care and the postnatal care is even more was suffering during the COVID-19. So one is the nutrition that the students were getting in the schools, but also the ANCs and PNCs were impacted because most of the health workforce were actually focusing on COVID-19, if you look at it, right? So it's like, the tracking of the iris cases or the tracking of, people who need to be a severe acute malnutrition or a moderate acute malnutrition need to be tracked. So that's when we decided to start the project with, of course, with a lot of approvals and the assurance from the partner as well to ensure that they take care of all the SOPs and so on, because it requires for people to be on the field, not necessarily from the public health system, but also to complement that with the system and so on. So it's been a natural journey for us, so to say. We started focusing on disability and we still are focused on disability. But we realized that as part of that, as part of the women and child health focus, it's also a natural progression for us to ensure that the underlying cause for all that is actually nutrition, and therefore we need to address that. So this program is essentially focusing on the high-risk ANCs and lactating mothers, identifying them, doing them, of course, all the referrals, home visits and so on, but also kind of ensuring as a community they kind of socialized with the practices of healthy eating and so on. Plus, specifically for newborns are tracked up to 2 years, not only for the immunization, but also for the SAM and the MAP, there's severe acute malnutrition and moderate, and followed up until they achieve the normal growth. And this again is a 5-year program. As Mr. Neeraj said, if you take it as a 3 or 5-year program, and if you are actually fixing the geography, the cohort tracking is possible. But these are all at a location, at a community and at the boundary level. And we need to kind of scale these systems at the country level. So I'll pass it here and then.
Thank you so much. I just loved some of the points that you raised. One, of course, women and girls taking ownership, and then, that's such an important part of the Jan Andolan and Jan Bhagidari. I think you referring to behavioral change communications is very important, because I think that is an area that requires so much investment and so much focus going forward. The fact, that I also agree with Dr. Ashish and you about define your community, define your cohort, track it, have a project for 3-5 years and see it through. I think that those are all very, very valid points. I think one of the key things that we've been hearing right from the start is that Poshan Abhiyan is about solidarity, it's about collaboration, it's about each stakeholder playing their role, and we all agree that private sector is a very, very important stakeholder in this Poshan Abhiyan to make it a Jan Andolan. We also heard that good nutrition makes business sense. So, which you will all agree with coming from the private sector. So my question, now I have one question for all three of you, and I'd like each of you to answer it in any order that you would like, which is, we heard Dr. Shankar talk about a call to action, right? There is an urgency that we need a call to action. So my question for you, all three of you, is how can private sector, or how can, you'll be talking as representatives of your respective CSRs. So how can the private sector support this Poshan Abhiyan, and what message do you have for other private sector players listening to you today?
Neeraj, you want to go? I mean, I can take it. Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So whatever that we do, I feel that we need to have a very systemic changes and, sustainable changes that we need to make. Like any community that we take, one, at least it needs to be a model community, okay? At least we need to be open for sharing those learnings and the best practices. We do, I mean, thanks for platforms like this. It's an opportunity not only to share what worked, it's also equally important to share what didn't work, right? Things like that, like the point that's very valid, saying that the tracking it. I mean, any short-term year in this case, it's very difficult to measure. So minimum is 3 years to 5 years, that's one thing that we have realized, that that's when you can actually follow the cohort and so on. And second is, any change that you make, it needs to be sustainable and make economic sense for the community as well. So many of the things we're also combining with this, I mean, particularly like in areas like where we are doing a holistic community development, you can also see the economic empowerment for the women as part of the self-help groups and so on. Also try and ensure that it's kind of they are economically empowered. Also in our livelihood, earlier we were very highly focused on industrialized skilling and getting them into industrial jobs. So we are also open enough to kind of start looking at rural livelihood and how that can actually link back to nutrition and healthy eating as well. Things like agro-based livelihood. So all that, the economic sustainability is not just for the different stakeholders whom we think that we play a role. At the end of the day, the prime role is actually the community. We need to ensure that their economic empowerment and then the behavioral changes is something that is called, it's kind of permanently etched in the mind, and therefore that they take ownership of that. And any amount of, the socializing, the messages, the sharing, to one end through the media, through the social media is another, and then locally percolating it to the community is another, right? We don't leave anything unturned, even to the radio channels or local radio channels, whatever it is, that needs to be permanent. There are interesting aspects of some of these projects. Some of them have SMS, voice calls, and stunts like that. And definitely follow-up is working, but how long these follow-up are going to make economic sense, right? I mean, you can't do that forever and ever for the country. So when do we make that the community kind of takes ownership on its own? I think that is where we need to collectively come together and share what works, and probably ideate more to solve that problem of behavioral change much more, it's kind of becomes a movement of its own where the community play a bigger role in the movement.
Right.
Yeah.
Shall I, Neeraj?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. So, one of the important thing which if I put 3 years in a perspective and what needs to be done and how we are planning to do, there are two parts of this entire engagement. One, as a company, when about 300,000 to 400,000 people are depending on us directly, indirectly, in many ways. So this is something which is ongoing process where we are trying to build our internal environment very friendly to all the employees, be it men, be it women, and how best we can do. Here the intensity is percolating down to the people who are working in the locations and further who are working in a very difficult circumstances, working directly in the production sites, be it mines or be it at production sites of the industries. So that is one part which is going to impact about 300,000 to 400,000 people. Coming on the community which is adjoining our area and those things, one thing which has to be done and which we are planning and which we are slowly pushing ourselves is that we are trying to establish the linkages. To give an example is that ANC checkup or a institutional delivery, which is happening in public health facilities, in a select facility, not all facilities, but in select facilities, even to get those, to avail this basic services of delivery, people are not having better access to those services. They're clueless. At the last moment, they're looking into their phones, whom to call, where to call, whom to contact. Now, if we are having this problem, definitely we all very well aware about the out-of-pocket expenditure, which is many fold higher in the community, and the expenditure pattern, if you look into it, the same expenditure which already government has made, community is making another expenditure. So for one thing, you are spending twice. Whether it's government or community doesn't matter, but it is like that. For one thing, you are spending the money is spent twice, which is not a wise thing, operationally also. So how to channelize it? How should we place our program that people are getting better connected to these facilities, and these facilities are sufficiently capacitated to address the need. Every facility will not have a best facility like in the district hospitals or in a SDH, but even if it is a PHC in the remote area, what are the basic services they can cater? So this is a good opportune time, because now government is also realizing that spread and the strengthening of public health systems is quite something which government has done a lot of things during COVID time. So this is what we are going to do, that if we are developing a program, we are developing a system, a referral system, and the community. Because what Rajeshwari ji has said correctly, that you cannot keep on investing on the same thing for years and years and years and years. Here comes 2024, and again, I cannot say that I'm investing on malnutrition. Malnutrition will be a problem, will remain a problem for next 10 years, but the intensity should reduce to less than 5% or something like that. So the important thing is that we are having many stakeholders, many partners, particularly government, who is placed there. What we need to stitch those people, come together, focus on 2, 3, 4 area, be it ANC, be it immunization, be it newborn care or something, develop a good referral system, and then freeze your program and then add for another program. So this is something which is needed to be done, and corporates are very much interested, and particularly when I say that corporates, I'm thinking about myself, is that we are quite interested to look into a progressive results-based progression. So maybe we may be partnering with 10 years with an organization, but that organization is saying that in first 3 years, we will do these things, we will have a result, we'll move on to another challenge, we'll have a results like this, and then we can move on. Because health is something which every passing year, there will be some other challenge. We cannot say that any year will be free from any health challenges. So health challenges are always there. There has to be progression. Now we do not talk about smallpox. We do not talk about many other things, but there are certain things which needs to be focused. Second thing is that on supplementary food, complementary food, and these things. So here again, baseline is very simple. Whatever you want to eat, whatever is at your home, eat it. You do not have to be always very selective or very alert in eating something exotic. Whatever is there, it is available as per your environment, as per your location. So eat it, but eat it in a frequency, and eat it with diversity. These two things, something which is not happening. People are eating either in the morning and in the evening. The frequency is not there, and the diversity is not there. So today what they have eaten, they're eaten in the evening. Next day also eaten the same. So next day also eaten the same. So it could be like fish and rice, which is healthy food. So you have eaten it today, you have eaten it tomorrow, then day after tomorrow, you have eaten the same fish and rice. So whatever you are getting, but whatever you are not getting, you are not getting. So that diversity has to be there. So once we are having frequency and diversity is established with all the linkages, bit agree and bit, then we are having a system where we can say this is a system which is developing over a period of time. It will take time. It will take 2, 3, 4 years with multiple challenges and all those things. So now we have to establish those systems in place, and the community will slowly see the benefit of the system, will join, and then you have a community behavior change communication as well, supporting the system's strengthening thing. So these two has to come together, and then we can deliver. And this is opportune time that we can re-strengthen our systems. And this is a good time when we can sit and brainstorm for doing these things. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Neeraj, go ahead.
Yeah. Uh, Very important, and I think all the panelists are indicating that moving forward, the important thing is to be in a geography, bring a geography and theme focus, and work in that geography with a tracking mechanism. There are 2-3 things that I would like to suggest at this moment. By bring India is too large a country to be managed by any kind of one organization, but that formal model needs to be there at the minutest and at the micro level. What this micro level could be, to me, a micro level could be a taluka or a block. If that taluka or a block at the minimum has a nutritionally affected people's information, you can call it NAPI, and a declared nutritionally affected people's information system, which we are trying to do with NGO Box in one of the clusters of about 70 villages. If you have that, and in addition to that, you have a kind of food, health and nutrition observatory at the state level. These two put together are kind of helping the geography, the narrowly focused geography, and the tracking that Ashish ji is referring about. If these two things are there, in those smaller geography, bringing a private-private partnership. The moment you have a private-private partnership with government and the civil society organ, by private-private partnership, it doesn't mean that it is devoid of civil society partners. I am working with my civil society partners. The other industry is working with their civil society partners. When the 2 comes, it's not 2 plus 2, it's 2 to the power 2 and 3, right? The moment, so it is a very different level of achievement that all the partners can have. We are trying to do it in one geography of about 70 villages, and setting up, and couple of organizations have come together to do that. Now, if you are doing that in a geography, and I will continue to repeat that if there is a nutritionally affected people information, and at a central, at a state level, there is an observatory which can actually tick to me that this child, this woman is in this area. I think moving forward would be easier and the process will be enjoyable. To me, next 3 years, 2021, 21-22, 22-23, these 3 years is a period where if we kind of take, and as our Prime Minister says, whatever you have taken, you declare that by this date we will do this. This consortium of industry in a reason, they must come together and declare that on this day we are getting together to change this area. If you don't declare, it is like I have decided to exercise and no one knows whether I am exercising or not. So this has to be a declared vision for a declared area, so that we are accountable to that geography and the government. This I would like to end with, that a declared vision of a declared area, and declare it over 3 years what you have done. This is how I would like to close, Neha.
Thank you so much. So powerful. Thank you, all 3 of you. Before I summarize, we are open for questions that the panelists will take for the next 10 minutes. I already see a set of questions which I will possibly, I will sort of, ask you guys, but I just want to sort of summarize this because this is very, very important. Each of you brought out very important points. One, on the fact that there has to be community ownership. Then there was the point of linkages within various systems, which is very critical. And in both spaces, I'm sure that you see the role of private sector based on the geography that you adopt, and so that you can declare that this is the geography that I will work with, and so that you are held accountable, which is very, very important. You are accountable to the government, to the people that you serve, which I think is a very valid point to sort of end this part of the discussion. So thank you so much. I will now move on to questions. So please, privately send me your questions. I'm just going to sort of list out the first few questions. Increasing, this is by Deborah Paul, increasing wasting trends in India is a cause of worry despite several number of child health programs. What is your opinion on this? And any of you can take it, feel free. That's a very important question, Deborah. So you're on mute, Dr. Ashish.
Yeah. So we all know that wasting is a immediate representation of acute malnutrition. And this is something which is a constant worry, because when your community, identified community, is your safety net, you can provide services, but that community is quite dynamic community. They go out, and when they come back again, there is a situation same that the wasting is there. But at the same time, wasting gives you an opportunity where you can get a quick result, maybe 4 to 6 weeks of time, where you target the child properly and you get the result. So this is our learning. This is a very hard learning which we had in our one of the project area, where we were focusing on the wasting. We saw the results declined. We were happy with that result, but we going back to individual things, we find that we cannot say that this child, there are certain common area, common children, say that out of 25,000 children, 12,000 children are there which are common, who remain in the field for 3-4 years. But there are certain children who left out, or that they get drop out from our safety area. So for wasting, perhaps somewhere understanding of referring them to NRC is also not a very good immediate result. What is important is that whatever food which is available locally, low cost, no cost, that has to be available in the child's plate, which we know that adequate feeding of the child is even less than 10% across the country. Once we have a food for 6 months and plus of the child, we are going to resolve to some extent the issue of wasting. So wasting is a very clear reflection that food which is available at the community level is not getting consumed. So there we have to hit that, how to make sure that the consumption is going up. NRC is one of the problem solving facility, but it is not the 100% solution. So this is about wasting.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. Can I move on to the next question, or do any of you also want to respond on wasting? I'll move on to the next question then, which is an equally interesting question by Mr. JVJ Krishnamurthy. How do we link agriculture, and how do we link this, I'm assuming nutrition, to agriculture and small farmers, as most of the 2% CSR pie goes to other initiatives?
It is true that, you know, like there are many things eyeing for the 2% of CSR, you know, like, and there are many verticals in India. So there's been a challenge, right? You know, and in spite of that, health and education is taking the maximum. I mean, whichever way you see it, you know, like the 2% that the dice and slice and all the NGO box, CSR box report says that out. When it comes to livelihood and skilling, yes, definitely we can do. I mean, as I said earlier, that we're not focusing on agriculture skilling, that as part of our community development. Couple of initiatives that where we saw that, you know, some of the initiatives that we did at an agricultural level is also improved. It's a kind of linking it back. For example, usage of Azolla for increasing the cattle milk production, okay, and things like that. You know, this is just a simple changes in the process of what they apply in the regular poultry or regular fishing or fish ponds within the patch of agriculture land and so on, and things like that, and the kind of crops that they grow, how they mix the crops. We were not focusing on agriculture entirely, but these kind of pandemic, the 2015 and probably the COVID-19 as well, the special programs, we were actually focusing on a holistic development of the community. So we've definitely seen those kind of practices, the changes that we see in agriculture. At least, you know, even if you improve the milk production, one is it's also creating an economic value for the farmers. But more importantly, it's also immediately solving the nutritional problem for their own kith and kin. So that's also kind of helping it back. So there are some practices, and there again, it is a lot of, you know, like, so it's kind of awareness creation, the practices which can actually improve the productivity and particularly the nutritional values of that, you know, what type of crops, what crops to mix. As I said, the Azolla production, you know, like, and then using Azolla for actually the milk production of the cattle and all that, we've seen results there. Yes, I mean, so that is, and there are also now particularly on the peri-urban areas, we are also promoting microgreens and home kitchen gardens and so on, which are other ways, because it's all, these are all like, you don't need space there. And there are a lot of, migration from villages to, industrial belts, and as for cities, it's not going to stop, right? Particularly if they are landless laborers, wherever there is an economic opportunity, that is where they're going to move. But then again, urban poverty is equally bad, right? Or more, I mean, it's worse than. So we need to actually take care of those urban population as well. So some of our community development also kind of socialize them on millet consumptions and things like microgreens and kitchen gardens and so on. So that also can become called as an agriculture in a very small scale, which is actually going to have an immense effect on the impact on the actual nutrition.
Thank you. Thank you.
Somebody who's working on agriculture, though we have not been actively working on agriculture.
Thank you. In the interest of time, we're just going to take one more question, which is from Vivek Yadav. This is about how does one visualize, how does multi-sectoral convergence, which is an important pillar of Poshan Abhiyan, how does one realize that when we're talking about convergence of various government departments, and how do these efforts trickle down to the last child? Would any of you like to take that?
Perhaps when 1996, when I started my career, the first word which I heard very programmatically was convergence. And sitting in 2020, I think tons of paper and liters of ink has used to describe convergence. Fortunately or unfortunately, or whatever is the things, the ideal convergence is very difficult to visualize any part of the country, be it at the block level or the district level. Yes, there are sporadic activities which had happened, facilitated by either government or development partners. But convergence and leading to a multi-stakeholder planning is something of very open topic, which many organizations has tested in many ways, but eventually it is not coming out in a very replicable model. But fact is that if you have to work on nutrition, you have to work with multiple partners. And one of the things is that what Rajeshwari ji was saying, and in my personal belief, the problem of nutrition, the solution of the nutrition will come out from agriculture, not from health or any other. So somewhere we have to find this way that agriculture should also play an important role. The way health and ICDS are sitting and taking charge of entire fight of malnutrition, equally the third important pillar is agriculture. That has to come out. To an extent, health and ICDS are now working very closely together at least village level, and to an extent higher level. The AAA concept is very popular now. Those things are there, but now in that AAA, fourth A is also important. That is agriculture. Agriculture is there. So unless we do not have that agriculture, it is not only agriculture for market, agriculture for household consumption, but convergence and multi-stakeholder planning. Unfortunately, Mr. Yadav, who has asked this question, it's a very lengthy answer, and people are struggling for past 20 years to find out a very ideal answer for this. Many people have tried many things. Many state has tried many things. Many people have put a lot of money on that, but a replicable model is still everybody's. It's a concept. Let's say work in progress for many years.
I would just add, Ashish. I think we started together. I started in '95 with absolutely a similar public-private community NGO partnership project. And that conversion is still a work in progress. To me, to answer and to add to this, one area that I believe why it has not worked and why things have not taken shape, why we do not have a clear-cut model even after 20 years, is that we have always looked for organizations coming together to solve a very large problem, that we will improve Gujarat. It will never go happen unless until you bring a geography focus. So if few organizations have come together into a geography, have declared their a reason of coming together. Why are they coming together and what will they solve? And they declare it. I think this will give a larger model to come up. Again, to me, private partnership is something that I would cherish for next 10 years, and perhaps these are the things which will give us a model. I am not going to give up on convergence, because no organization alone can solve even one problem of the geography. Finally, what Rajshri ji has said, in urban, I do not know how will you solve, because there is hardly any space. But in rural, making sure that the dairy part and a kitchen garden part, if it is done, the agriculture is going to solve that problem for that reason. And this is what we are kind of trying to do. So no giving up on convergence, no giving up on partnership, but it would be a private partnership, and it would be for a certain declared geography. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I want to thank all the three eminent panelists today, because there have been such valid points that have been raised, right from the inclusion of agriculture to looking at BCC to looking at geographies and collaboration. And I'm really hoping that today's discussion has been an inspiration for other private sector players as well to come forward, join the platform, and work together as a community. So once again, thank you to all three of you. Thank you, Impact for Nutrition. And yes, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A big thank you to all our speakers for sharing their wonderful ideas on private sector engagement. It's been absolutely insightful to hear from your experiences, both at the field level as well as from a policy making perspective. And some great points have been raised today. And I really hope that our audience has been able to take away some constructive suggestions and models from all the great things that you all have mentioned today. So thank you so much for that. I would now like to turn this over once again to Mr. Subhrajyoti Bhaumik to close this webinar for us.
Thank you, Yamini. Thank you very much. And as always, it's a pleasure to have all of you speak. I mean, Dr. Shankar has been the torchbearer for nutrition for a long while now. He is one of the eminent thought leaders of India, and he put his thoughts forward so succinctly on where we stand today and how we can go forward. So thank you, Dr. Shankar. Thanks a lot for this. I think your inputs have always added a lot of value to not only what we do as a private sector coalition, but also to what the government and the larger bodies do. And so the ideas which you put forward, I'm sure will be well taken and well received. And Mr. Rakesh Vyas, thank you very, very much for taking out so much time and coming and joining us and putting us the perspective of the scale at which the government is working. As a lead for the Poshan Abhiyan and the mission director for the government of Gujarat, you have been doing yeoman service in that state, and where you have very clearly spoken how you want to change indicators and get the anemia and the levels of malnutrition, much lower than what they are. Neeraj ji, it's always a pleasure to have you on board. Neeraj ji, every time he comes and he speaks with us on public platforms, he gives me new ideas to take back and work upon. Last time we talked about an observatory on how states and localized data collection could actually be the key to looking at nutrition in a more wholesome way. And today he spoke about private partnerships and declaring where we want to go. I think yes, intent is important, but stating that intent on public platforms and as a pledge to a public platform is equally important. And I'm sure Impact for Nutrition as the platform for private sector participation can be the base where organizations can come together in a very brand agnostic manner and put these ideas forward and say that I adopt a district and I pledge to change the nutritional standards. And I think with so many districts across India, 700 plus, if each group of or a couple or maybe 5-6 companies come together and take up each district, we can eradicate this together. and working closely with the government. Rajeshri ji, very, very insightful inputs. Thank you very much. I mean, you just showed us how nutrition is not a standalone challenge. Nutrition today stands at a place where it has to be convergent, as that word came up very often at the end, with various other programs. And when you started working on disability and you discovered that the root cause is nutrition. And I'm sure similarly to many of the developmental challenges we find, food and nutrition is pretty endemic to them. I think Dr. Ashish is gone, but Dr. Ashish has brought in some wonderful perspective today. And I think as a practitioner, as a doctor, he's also, and has been, as he very rightly said, since 1996, he's worked on nutrition and convergence. So he has given us insights on how they have taken up mission mode projects wherever they are working to tackle nutrition. As I mean, we always see at Impact for Nutrition, and I mean, a few years before this, I was also at the place where Neeraj ji and Rajeshri ji were working in corporate social responsibility. I always said this, you know, together when we join and come together, there is always the opportunity to transform a much larger scale. Maybe I can do it in a village as an organization, but if I join hands, we can do it in districts, we can do it in states, we can do it across the country. So and also very, very importantly, nutrition is a challenge, but it's not a standalone challenge. It can be tackled when we tackle our multitude issues. We have various programs on education, health, where we are looking at addressing nutrition challenges. That convergence is very important on how each and every issue, if you see, we can have nutrition as a supplemental and core issue which can support the change which we are progressing. We have various methods. I mean, people spoke about livelihoods and farming. Maybe not the best forum for talking about farming, but that is an opportunity. Yes, it's even food. Our food systems have been so strong and localized that we used to consume. Somebody mentioned millets. We have been a millets eating country, which has diverged to more polished grains in recent years. So there is wonderful opportunity in every space which we look at. I think nutrition gets us all together on the same platform, and I think this is a platform which we can use to get a large-scale change towards change in our country. So thank you, everyone. Thank you once again. Thank you, Dr. Shankar. I mean, everybody can see Dr. Shankar now. I hope his video wasn't working due to technical issues. And but I'm very thankful to Dr. Shankar who I've agreed to come and spend his time for us and spend 1.5 hours with us today and share his inputs. So thank you, everybody. Thank you all the attendees for coming in today. I think you have taken back a lot. And in case you want to share anything, we are putting up our social media handles over there, and we are there on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can connect with us over there. Our coordinates and email addresses are there. Please do feel free to connect and to come together, and let's utilize a platform to transform nutrition in India.